Okay, welcome everyone. Yeah, exciting to be here. Today is an interesting day because, funny enough, 2 years ago, I actually attended the first TUM Blockchain Conference as a student myself, and I'm not sure how many students are here. And I think back then I wasn't even in blockchain, and now I'm working full-time as a blockchain developer and researcher, and now I basically switched sides. So it's funny for me to be up here and talking to you now, considering that 2 years ago I was sitting right where you were guys sitting. So my name is Lorenz. I'm a recently graduate from RWTH Aachen, and I now work full-time in blockchain. And I work for a company called Grow the Pie. And what we do is mainly quantitative analysis of different blockchains, mainly focused within the Ethereum ecosystem. So I really want to go through Ethereum's history because, as you guys know, Ethereum turned 10 years old just a few weeks ago, and really highlight some key trends or key achievements Ethereum had in its first 10-year journey. And then in the end, I want to also give a little bit of a more outlook approach of what we can expect in the next 10 years Ethereum to be. So who here knows what Ethereum is? Okay, yeah? Okay, I would say 80%. So for the people that do not know what Ethereum is, it is a blockchain. And to be specific, it's a smart contract-enabled blockchain. And it was founded by Vitalik Buterin, who you can see on the right, in 2015. And considering it's now over 10 years since he has founded it, a lot of things have changed and evolved over the time. And yeah, I'm here to basically guide you through the whole 10-year journey. So I think there's 3 key aspects what makes Ethereum unique. So first of all, we have to imagine it's 2015, right? Back then, there was literally the only blockchain that was still relevant to today is basically Bitcoin. And Bitcoin was just a very basic blockchain where you can send Bitcoin from A to B. But ultimately, you didn't have any complex transactions that were possible. And now Vitalik, he came up with an idea called a smart contract blockchain, which basically allows you to put custom code onto the blockchain and execute against that. And that's what Ethereum really innovated on. Yeah, also 2 other very important things to highlight. It's very decentralized, and the native cryptocurrency is ETH. So there's always some sort of cryptocurrency associated with these blockchains, but yeah. So yeah, let's go on a journey together through Ethereum's history, considering always taking the view of the data side. And I want to guide you guys through by always having a little bit of a hook. So in my opinion, Ethereum is so diverse and it's very hard to put into like a 20-minute presentation. So I want to highlight a few key achievements and also key things that make Ethereum unique and why it's building the world ledger. So in my opinion, Ethereum is one of the most decentralized blockchains out there. And you can really see that Ethereum is one of the most decentralized blockchains out there by looking at how much validators Ethereum has. So in total, there are over 1.1 million validators currently validating the Ethereum blockchain. And 1.1 million validators running all around the world, communicating with each other to settle Ethereum into what it is, and producing blocks every 12 seconds, which is quite impressive in my opinion. And backing these validators is a consensus algorithm, which is the proof of stake consensus algorithm. So basically, Ethereum is validated by validators who stake ETH, the token, and only if you have a certain amount of ETH, you can actually validate the chain. And what that achieves is you have so much money behind Ethereum validating it that it's really hard for an outsider to maliciously attack the blockchain, leading to one of the most decentralized blockchains there is. So we can see at the moment around 36 million ETH are currently validating Ethereum. And considering if you want to really attack and maliciously change Ethereum, you would need at least 2/3 of that. And putting that into a dollars perspective would be many billions, considering that ETH currently trades at around $4,000. So Ethereum is decentralized. And so Ethereum is very decentralized and secure, but I guess that's also one of its key downsides, because there's like this famous blockchain trilemma that you can only really achieve 2 of the 3 different key areas of what makes a blockchain unique. And Ethereum really sits in the middle of decentralization through its 1.1 million validators and security, but it really lacks a little bit of scalability. So that's a trade-off that Ethereum made. So my second point is that Ethereum is constantly evolving. And what we have seen in the past 10 years is a majority of upgrades. An upgrade is basically new code that powers Ethereum being upgraded across the 1.1 million validators. So you can see there's been many upgrades, and some of them have been really changed fundamentally how Ethereum worked. And these upgrades all happened at the same time while Ethereum was still producing blocks. So there's never been a downtime in Ethereum's history. And still Ethereum managed to upgrade and constantly evolve into adopting new technologies, making it more robust and bringing out new features. And I want to highlight a few upgrades that really changed Ethereum, one of them being the merge in 2022. Exactly. So the merge was where Ethereum changed its consensus algorithm from proof of work to proof of stake. And that reduced the energy consumption of Ethereum by over 99%. And I have this chart here. You can literally see what happened in 2022. Ethereum was using a lot of energy, and then through this constantly evolvedness, it all of a sudden happened that Ethereum made the change to proof of stake and managed to reduce its energy consumption by 99% plus. And I think there's a lot of other blockchains that really lack any upgradability, which I guess might be a selling point, but ultimately Ethereum is evolving and really managing to tackle these key issues and fixing them. Then the second upgrade I want to highlight is the Denkun upgrade, and that really scaled Ethereum. And this Denkun upgrade introduced something called blobs, and blobs basically managed to create a layer 2 ecosystem, chains building on Ethereum. And I don't know if anybody of you transacted in 2022 on Ethereum. We all know this when we were checking Etherscan, and we saw basically a simple transaction costing $50. And I mean, that's not the future of the internet, right? So Ethereum managed to fix that by horizontal scaling. And what is horizontal scaling? So while Ethereum layer 1 continues to keep producing blocks, layer 2s evolved with the Denkun upgrade, posting their data, or running in a horizontal way and posting data onto Ethereum and basically scaling Ethereum in a horizontal way. And now you can see that the blob space, or the block space where you can transact, significantly increased due to the layer 2s running in parallel. So that is one of the key activities, and we can see that across the board between layer 1 and layer 2s, transaction fees plummeted to sub-cents. So while it was expensive at the beginning, nowadays it's basically free to transact on these layer 2s. And if you change the fee structure, and we really saw that beginning of 2024 when this upgrade occurred, and all of a sudden fees in the Ethereum ecosystem plummeted, the throughput, the amount of transactions going through Ethereum ecosystem increased exponentially. And I think that shows you that if fees are not the barrier to entry, there's so many more use cases that can come online due to that. And yeah, so while at the beginning, you can see down here, that was Ethereum back in 2020, maybe doing 13 or 12, 13 transactions per second. Nowadays, it's doing hundreds and just keeps on scaling. I feel like every week we have a new all-time high of throughput. And yeah, Ethereum is constantly evolving, and it's not stopping here. So while we had these key upgrades, there's still many more upgrades coming. And the ultimate goal is to make Ethereum as lean as possible, make Ethereum run on your phone, make Ethereum run into your browser, and really be the backbone of the Web3 internet. And for that, Justin Drake came up with this lean consensus progress bar. And yeah, it basically, they already have bunch of stuff planned for the roadmap of Ethereum, so there's more cool stuff to come. Okay, yeah, what is Ethereum else? Like, Ethereum is permissionless security. So as we just saw, there were a lot of layer 2s building on top of Ethereum, making Ethereum scale, and a lot of these layer 2s were previously independent blockchains. And independent blockchains, they have these problems, right? How do we make ourselves decentralized? And Ethereum has a way of allowing any blockchain to post their data onto Ethereum, and then, therefore, inheriting the decentralized aspect of Ethereum layer 1. And that's exactly what permissionless security is. Anyone can do that. Nobody will stop you if you want to validate and post your blockchain data onto Ethereum. And that's exactly what Zelo did, which is a layer 2 blockchain now. Previously, they were paying around $6.9 million just to pay their validators to be decentralized. And now they switched to posting on Ethereum to use this permissionless security. And now they are only paying around $13,200 per year in costs to be secured by Ethereum. And I think that's actually pretty crazy to put into numbers. And yeah, this basically sparked a huge boom in layer 2s, right? Why pay so much to secure your own chain if you can just permissionlessly secure it using Ethereum? And for the investors under us here, Ethereum is programmable money, and especially ETH, the asset. So with the merge and the reduced or the change of the consensus algorithm from proof of stake or proof of work to proof of stake, the issuance of new ETH significantly reduced. So you can see, for example, here the blue line, that's the total supply of Ethereum. And it was steadily increasing until the merge, where it basically plateaus out. And the red line you can see is the inflation. And the inflation was quite high at the beginning because Ethereum had to bootstrap its security. But ultimately, after the merge and all of these upgrades, it managed to have basically an inflation of around 0. So holding ETH as a token, you would know that it's programmable money and shouldn't inflate significantly in the future. So let's talk about the economies on Ethereum. So Ethereum is the home of Web3 economies. And what you can see here is a list of the top applications that are building inside the Ethereum ecosystem and how many users they have and how much fees users pay to use them. And we can see that, yeah, there's a lot of applications being built on Ethereum that generate real economic value. And you have, for example, on the top left, Uniswap. For the people that don't know, Uniswap is a decentralized exchange where you can swap assets. And it's one of the most, or it's probably the biggest economy at the moment on Ethereum. And it provides Ethereum with real use cases. And anyone here can build their own application on Ethereum and tap into this economy. And Uniswap, I mean, you can see they just burned over 129 million fees. They have millions of users every day, and they are a huge company now. And this company was only made possible through the economy of Ethereum. So I think it's similar to When in the US the first railways cars and so on were launching, the transatlantic highways and so on. And that really kick-started off the whole trading empires. And similar things are happening here. Ethereum building the groundworks, and all of these applications building on top of Ethereum are really cashing in on this huge economy that is being built out on Ethereum. And to put it into perspective here, you can see the total application revenue. So these are the applications that are building on top of the Ethereum ecosystem and how much money they made. And you can see every day they are making around $37 million through fees and application revenues. And it's basically a chart that is slowly going up, which is, I think, crazy to think about, that people building on top of Ethereum are making millions every day. So Ethereum is also the world's settlement layer. So in recent weeks, we had a lot of news about stablecoins and how a lot of big companies like Stripe are trying to get into this game. And we can really see that a lot of stablecoins are on Ethereum. To put it into perspective, I did the numbers in the report. Around 60% of stablecoins live on Ethereum ecosystem. And in total, about 1.9% of the M2 money supply is already tokenized on blockchains. And that's just increasing. And I guess, why are so many stablecoins on Ethereum using it as settlement layer? It is because it's superior in time. So rather than wiring something, which takes days, you have settlement in seconds. Rather than paying significant fees, you basically have sub-cent fees. And especially for cross-border payments, like in this example, where we have a $500 example transaction, which is being sent from Europe to Philippines, you would basically only have an FX rate of maybe 1 cent loss. It's available 24/7, and you instantly know if your money is actually being received into the funding account, because everything is transparent on the ledger of the blockchain. And maybe here an example, which I think is a great success story to really highlight how this actually looks in real life. We have Zelo again, which is a layer 2 blockchain, and they curated apps, economies in their blockchain, in the block space. And one of them being MiniPay. MiniPay is a simple application which is super popular in African countries, where they can send stable coins to each other. And you can now see that every single day over 4.5 million stablecoin transactions are being processed through this app, sending subs like maybe 20 cents to one person for buying a Coca-Cola in somewhere, I don't know, remote African region where the local currency is unstable. They basically just fall back onto the US dollar, and this allows them to transact with it. Where previously they didn't even have access to these stable coins, they now can use them through a simple app. And yeah, it basically is a huge success story, this simple application transferring stable coins to one each other. And it's powered by the Ethereum ecosystem. And another example, which goes more into the tokenization direction, Robinhood is a brokerage account in the US, and they recently launched an application here in the EU. And if you download the EU app and buy stocks, it's actually fully on-chain. And you don't even notice it. If you use the application, it looks like a normal brokerage account, the same experience you have in the US or with any other Trade Republic or whatever. But on the back end, they take your money and actually issue tokenized stocks version that they hold on your behalf. And they recently launched that just a few months ago. And you can see that they now tokenize more than $5 million worth of stocks for the EU customers. And yeah, it's another great example of how blockchain is used as a settlement layer and is able to be implemented in a more efficient way and enabling access for us EU customers to US stocks that we might only go through like another brokerage account through Trade Republic. So it's, I think, a cool use case using the Ethereum ecosystem. And yeah, so Ethereum is a lot of things. And it's really building the world ledger. It's bringing economies on chain. It's enabling use cases that hasn't been possible in the past. And we are in the middle of making this Web3 economy possible using Ethereum. And a lot of time and hours spent, we all, like together with the On-Chain HQ guys, which is another research company, we worked on this building the World Ledger report. And if you want to know more and read up more, which goes far beyond just this presentation today, feel free to take a look at the report, and you have a detailed explanation of everything there. And yeah, that's the end of my talk. I want to thank you guys, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Thank you.